When a child is born into this world, the parents always want to do what's best for their future, to be able to provide the best nutrition, a stable home, and have the best education. But what happens when the parents learn that the child cannot hear sounds? The reality is that they deserve to be immersed in a world designed for their needs so that they can flourish as human beings in the deaf community instead of enrolling them in school that is assigned for hearing children. The topic of this debate is whether deaf children should attend mainstream schools or deaf schools. We are in support of deaf children attending deaf schools, where they can thrive in an environment that is tailored best to their experiences. A school that doesn't just teach them how to read or write, but also understands the beauty of sign language, the strength of deaf identity, and the importance of the community that shares their world. The mainstream education system tends to be supportive, but more often than not falls short of personalized care and communication access that deaf children require to excel. Placing deaf children into schools where deafness is not a handicap, but rather a part of the identity of the student, allows for the possibility of greater achievement, emotional health, and social integration. In today's opening statement, we will show you why institutions for the deaf are not simply an alternative, but rather the necessary supplement to an education that is holistic in nature. With our efforts, we can make certain that these children are not neglected, but instead are given every chance to thrive.
Deaf students learn better skills in deaf schools. In a deaf school, students are immersed in an environment where sign language is the primary mode of communication. This natural setting for higher proficiency in sign language as students can practice and engage with peers and teachers, who are all well fluent in it. This is especially important compared to public schools, where a deaf student might be the only child with hearing loss in the classroom, potentially leading to an isolation and a lack of opportunities to practice sign language. Research has shown the benefits of this approach. A study explored the relationship between the type of educational setting and the development of sign language in deaf children. The study compared students from schools that prioritize sign language and those that use oral communication or combination of methods. The results were compelling. Deaf children attending schools where sign language was emphasized demonstrated significantly higher proficiency in sign language compared to those in environments that did not prioritize it. The research concluded that sign language as the primary mode of communication provided deaf children with better opportunities to engage in social interactions. The social interaction in a language they fully understand is vital for their cognitive and emotional development. In addition to language and social development, deaf schools provided a sense of community and belonging that can be hard to find in public schools. Students in these schools are surrounded by peers who understand their experiences, allowing for peer-to-peer support and reducing feelings of loneliness or stigma. This is particularly important in fostering self-confidence and emotional well-being, as these students are not defined by their level of hearing, but by their shared experiences. Lastly, many deaf schools also offer career readiness programs including internships, job shadowing, and access to mentors in fields of interest. These programs ensure that deaf students are well prepared for the future, whether they pursue higher education or the workforce directly.
The development of language skills in deaf schools is superior to mainstream in the sense that there is more inspiration for children in their prime development ages to grow and learn how to communicate in a way that could benefit them more. Being surrounded by a community that is experiencing the same way of life could give the child more motivation to learn and develop these language skills. In a book published by the Oxford University Press, they give an example of how a young boy with a cochlear implant who attended a mainstream school was falling behind with the development of his speech and hearing skills. And then once he transferred to a deaf school, he was able to get the proper teaching that would benefit his learning more in general. While this article states the pros and cons for deaf schools, the pros outweigh. Being in a deaf school could provide the student with a better understanding of the language skills that may benefit them, as well as providing them with more teachers or resources to work on these skills. Going to a mainstream school could be harder due to the fact that the teachers there would not be as educated on how to teach deaf students the proper way that they need to learn.
Deaf children need an environment where they can fully engage in social interactions, and that's possible through deaf schools. In these schools, they communicate freely using ASL with peers and teachers who share the same language and culture that they do. This allows them to form deeper connections and friendships and express themselves confidently and develop essential social skills without any barriers. In mainstream schools, deaf children may struggle to keep up with conversations, even with interpreters. They miss out on side discussions, jokes, and the natural flow of interaction. Hearing classmates may not know ASL, making socialization that much more difficult and isolating. Instead of feeling included, many deaf students in mainstream schools may feel like they are constantly trying to adjust. Deaf schools eliminates this struggle. They provide a community where deaf children don't just survive socially, they thrive socially. They grow up surrounded by people who understand them, allowing them to develop strong and lifelong connections.